Why do they do it? The alien commander, Scanther of the Xyrillian Armada, paced across the bridge of his vessel, his 6 eyes darting between the holographic display of Earth and the tactical data swirling around it. His mandibles clicked in irritation. Explain to me, strategist Vleth, why these humans send their weakest soldiers to confront certain death. It defies every logic of warfare. Vleth, a younger Xyrillian whose scales shimmered faintly in the ship's light, hesitated. Perhaps they do not value them, Commander, or it could be a form of punishment for their incompetence. No, Scanther hissed, his frustration mounting. If that were true, they would not emerge victorious as they so often do. The bridge fell silent, save for the hum of the ship's systems. Around them, holograms displayed endless records of human battles, each marked with an impossible outcome. Time and time again, raw recruits and seemingly inept soldiers had been thrown into conflicts against far superior foes and won. It wasn't brute strength or advanced technology that secured their victories, but something far more perplexing. Finally, Vleth dared to speak again. Perhaps we are asking the wrong question. Perhaps it is not why they send their weakest, but what makes their weakest so effective. Scanther stopped mid-stride. His eyes narrowed, his mandibles grinding together as he mulled over Vleth's words. Then it is time we learn the truth. In a remote human outpost, deep in the rugged mountains of a strategically critical yet overlooked planet, the story of humanity's resilience began to unfold. Private Mia Clarke, fresh out of basic training and carrying a head full of nerves, found herself standing in the thin mountain air, gazing at the ragged line of defenses that surrounded the small installation. "This is it," Mia muttered under her breath, disbelief coloring her voice. The so-called defenses of the outpost were an eclectic mix of weathered barricades, half-rusted turrets, and equipment that looked like it hadn't been properly maintained since before she was born. "They sent us here with this?" Beside her, Private Alex Ortega, his helmet pushed back just enough to reveal a mischievous grin, chuckled. "Relax, Clarke. It's just an outpost. Nothing ever happens here. Besides, if anything does, we've got our ace in the hole." "Ace?" Mia's eyebrows knitted together. "What ace?" Alex gestured with his thumb toward a grizzled figure standing near the command center. Sergeant Nathan Harper, their unit leader, radiated an air of unflinching authority. His face was a roadmap of scars and weathered lines, and his eyes had the hard, distant look of someone who had seen far more battles than he cared to remember. Yet there was a calmness in his movements that seemed to reassure even the most anxious of the rookies. "Harper's been through hell and back," Alex said, leaning closer conspiratorially. "He's like a walking legend. Stick close to him and you'll be fine." Mia nodded, though her nerves didn't abate. She wasn't sure how much she trusted the idea of following a legend into whatever chaos lay ahead. Unbeknownst to the humans, the Xyrillians had been watching this particular outpost for weeks. It was supposed to be an easy test, an opportunity to gauge human response times and tactics in a remote location with little risk to the larger war effort. Scanther had dispatched a small force of drones and infantry, expecting a swift and decisive victory. What the Xyrillians didn't anticipate was the sheer tenacity with which the rookies would respond. "Alert! Incoming hostiles!" The base's outdated warning system crackled to life, sending a jolt of adrenaline through every soldier within earshot. The outpost erupted into organized chaos as the rookies scrambled to their posts. Mia bolted toward one of the turrets, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She fumbled with the controls, trying desperately to bring the ancient weapon to life. Sweat beaded on her brow as the first wave of Xyrillian drones appeared on the horizon. "Focus, Clarke." Harper's voice cut through the din like a blade. He strode past her position, barking orders with the calm authority of someone who had faced worse odds and lived to tell about it. "That thing's older than you, but it still works if you treat it right. Adjust the power coupling and don't overthink it." With trembling hands, Mia followed Harper's instructions. The turret hummed to life just in time. As the drones closed in, she squeezed the trigger, unleashing a burst of fire that sent several of the attackers spiraling to the ground in flames. Around her, the other rookies were finding their footing, fighting with a combination of grit, desperation, and sheer ingenuity. On board the Xyrillian command ship, Scanther and Vleth analyzed the unfolding battle with mounting astonishment. "They are uncoordinated," Vleth noted, his voice tinged with both confusion and admiration. "Their movements lack precision, their technology is inferior, and yet, they adapt." "Yes," Scanther agreed, his tone heavy with begrudging respect. "They adapt, and more than that, they improvise. They exploit every advantage, no matter how small." The holographic display replayed a scene from the battle. Mia, still visibly nervous but determined, rigging a malfunctioning turret to fire in a wide arc, taking out a dozen drones in a single burst. Nearby, Alex Ortega had fashioned makeshift barricades from rubble, funneling the enemy into a kill zone where his squadmates were waiting to ambush them. "Their ingenuity is their weapon," Scanther said thoughtfully. "But there must be more to it." Back at the outpost, the rookies faced wave after wave of attacks, each more ferocious than the last. Harper moved among them like a force of nature, offering guidance, shouting encouragement, and occasionally stepping into the fray to demonstrate techniques that turned the tide of smaller skirmishes. Mia, meanwhile, found herself rising to the occasion in ways she hadn't thought possible. Her knack for tinkering and problem-solving became invaluable as she devised increasingly creative ways to repel the Xyrillian forces. At one point, she managed to reprogram a downed drone to fly directly into an enemy formation, where it detonated in a brilliant explosion. Alex and the others began to look to her for guidance, and though she felt the weight of their expectations, she didn't shrink from it. As the Xyrillian attacks escalated, the humans responded in kind, their camaraderie and creativity serving as their greatest assets. Mia and her team developed unconventional strategies that turned their underdog status into an advantage. They used the terrain to set traps, repurposed alien technology to create makeshift weapons, and even employed psychological tactics to confuse their enemies. Harper, however, could see the strain wearing on his unit. In a rare moment of vulnerability, he pulled Mia aside after a particularly grueling battle. "You're doing good work, Clarke," he said, his voice low and sincere. "Better than I expected. But this isn't just about surviving. It's about learning. Every mistake you make here is a lesson that'll keep you alive tomorrow." Mia nodded, the weight of his words sinking in. I don't want to let anyone down." Harper placed a hand on her shoulder. "You won't. Trust yourself." The Xyrillians, frustrated by their inability to secure the outpost, deployed an elite force to crush the humans once and for all. The battle that followed was unlike anything the rookies had faced before. Harper was gravely injured in the opening salvo, leaving Mia to take command. Though terrified, she rose to the challenge, drawing on everything she had learned to lead her unit in a desperate counteroffensive. The battle raged for hours, with losses on both sides mounting. Mia's strategy involved splitting their already meager forces to create the illusion of greater numbers. She and Alex led separate squads, using hit-and-run tactics to whittle down the enemy's strength. In a daring move, Mia lured the Xyrillian commander into a trap, forcing a one-on-one confrontation that tested her resolve to its limits. As the dust settled, the humans emerged battered but victorious. The Xyrillians, humbled and intrigued, sent a diplomatic envoy to learn more about humanity. What began as a war ended in an unprecedented exchange of ideas and philosophies. "We sought to understand your weakness," Scanther admitted during one of the early meetings. "But in doing so, we discovered your strength. Humans do not send their weakest to die. They send them to become strong." The revelation resonated deeply, both among the Xyrillians and within Mia herself. She realized that the journey of growth and transformation she and her comrades had undergone was a reflection of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to endure, adapt, and rise above any challenge. Months later, the once desperate outpost stood as a symbol of resilience and cooperation. Mia and her unit, now seasoned warriors, continued to serve, their bonds forged in the crucible of war unbreakable. Their tale spread across Earth and beyond, inspiring new generations to embrace the values of courage, creativity, and unity. "Strength," Mia said during a joint ceremony with the Xyrillians, isn't about being the biggest or the toughest. It's about growing, learning, and never giving up. That's what makes us human. And so, a new era began. One defined not by conflict but by understanding, with humanity's enduring spirit shining brightly as a beacon for all to see.